All right, good morning, everyone. You can hear, life challenges you in some interesting ways at times. This morning, life challenged me with losing my voice. So you get a little bit of the Bobby Kennedy voice this morning. So, good morning. We like to start off with everybody's favorite slide, disclaimer and confidentiality notice. Just simply put, this is for educational and informational purposes only, right? I'm not up here to try to tell you this is what you need to do with all of your bushels or these are the best strategies in the world. I'm just here today to share some information, shed some light on some things, and help educate. That's all it is, all right? No offer to buy or sell any derivative. So we'll leave that up there for a minute. When I was chatting with Paul, and Paul asked me, he's like, hey, Jordan, can you come and give a little presentation on the markets and a market outlook? It just seems like the number one, prices have dropped a lot, right? But then he's like, we just need some good news. We need some good information, something to lift morale. And I said, Paul, I have just the right thing. Everything is fine. You just need to look in the right place. Sort of how we feel right now, right? With what happened with prices. Just put your head in the sand. So today's conversation is going to be about KISS. And I don't know about you, but my dad, he used this on me all the time. The acronym, keep it simple, stupid. Emphasis on the stupid, right? But no, we're not going to be this pretty, but no. And not these guys either. I love their music, but we're going to talk about keep it simple strategies, right? And so what I'm going to go over is some strategies that have historically beaten harvest prices. So you've heard me say simple a couple of times now. What I'm not going to say is easy, right? Because even though these are simple strategies, they're going to be simple for all of you, I promise. They're not easy. I'm going to go through why. So a little bit about me, for those that don't know me or my professional background. I'm not a farmer. I'm not going to get up here and pretend to tell you how to grow 200 bushel acre corn or 60, 70 bushel beans. But I have been doing this for a while, and we've been trading a decent amount of bushels in doing so. So today's objective, right, it's broken down in three ways. First, we're going to discuss three simple marketing strategies. I promise they are simple, that have historically beaten harvest prices, right? We're going to discuss 4 hard truths, and in doing so, we're going to have a little fun. We're going to pick on the Iowa farmer, because I know you guys here in Indiana are sharp, so we're going to pick on the guys in Iowa. And afterwards, we're going to go over 3 local basis trends, right? And these are 3 local facilities in your area. You're going to know them, and we'll go through those in detail. So Jordan, you keep saying how simple these are, right? How simple are they? I'm first going to tell you what you don't need. You don't even need a computer, right? No sexy technicals, no fundamental indicators, nothing, right? You don't even need to know supply demand, what the fundamental story is at the time, weather, none of it, right? Why harvest prices? Well, that leads us to our first hard truth. Hard truth number 1, most Iowa farmers sell their grain when they have to, right? When do they have to? At harvest, right? Anything they don't have storage for, this is the number 1 time frame that most of the grain moves, and it's at harvest. What else happens at harvest, right? Well, they're in a situation where when they're selling, a lot of that grain also is not forward contracted, right? So they're just spotting it out, or they're delay pricing or basis only contracts. So there's simpler ways and profitable ways to market grain. First up is simple strategy number 1. So I can't tell if you guys can see this or not. It's a picture of a tulip. When I see the tulips, I think of my wife first, because she likes to garden and she plants them all over the yard. But what else happens when the tulips are coming up, right? It's springtime. And so what's happening just before spring? We get our February spring price. Does everybody first understand how that February spring price is put together? Right, I'm gonna assume yes, yeah. So strategy number one is just going over the spring price. And so we all know how it's put together, but how many of you know spring price is beating the harvest price 15 out of the last 20 years? It's 75% of the time, right? Simple strategy number one. You want to try to beat harvest price and you're waiting till harvest, you're looking for an alternative, sell the spring price. So it's February 29th today. This is the last day the spring price is being averaged and put together. It's too late for us today to go back and put, a daily pricer or something like that together. But I'm going to give you some ideas here in a minute, okay? So a guy like Kelly says, you know what, Jordan, I like the spring price. That's good information. But how do I get a little edge? How do I get a little bit more than that, okay? Sell a spring price, but add 20 cents to it. How often does that happen? It's achieved 18 out of the past 20 years. 90% of the time, the market has traded 20 cents higher than the spring price. Okay, so I just showed you that not only is the spring price beaten harvest 15 out of the last 20, but if you're looking for a little bit of edge, a little bit of bump, 20 cents higher has been achieved 90% of the time. Then we got a guy like Josh. Josh is in the back there. He's a little bit more greedy, right? He say, Jordan, you know what, I like that, but can I get 40? How often does that happen? 12 out of the past 20 years. Doesn't look as sexy as first, 60% of the time. But what if I told you 2 out of the last 20 years, we came within 2 cents of that, right? 2023 was one of them. It's 39 and a quarter. All right, we'll go through the other ones in a minute. So what's that look like on the chart? So the blue line is the spring price. The green line is the first day of October. It's what I'm using for harvest price throughout this presentation. All right. So what's the takeaway here? This is just showing you simple strategy 1A, selling the spring price. What's that look like over time? Okay. Obviously, 2012 would have been better to wait till harvest. We all know why. Drought, right? 2022 didn't work so well, but over time, it's done pretty well. This is showing you 1B and 1C. The 20-cent bump that Kelly wanted, the 40-cent bump that Josh wanted. What do those look like on the chart? That's showing you how many times they hit, right? How many times those prices actually filled, okay? You can see a lot over the last 20 years. Here's 2023, it just missed by 2 cents, or 3/4 of a cent, within 2 cents. The other one was 2015, okay? So will those work this year? I don't know. I have no idea, and I'm not here to tell you where the market's going. That's the idea behind these simple strategies. I'm just showing you what's happened in the past, how they work, so you don't have to guess where the market's going. So how would we implement these today? Pretty simple, right? We can't go back in time and say, hey, February 1st, Jordan, start a daily pricer and run it for the month. I can't do that. But what we do know is the spring price is going to finish around 465, give or take a couple pennies, right? I put this together last week, so I didn't have the latest data. It's going to be close to this. So you work in order to sell D's 24 corn at 465 or better, right? 1B, you add 20 cents to it, right? If the spring price is 465, we just wanted to take 465 plus 20, gets you to 485, so you work in order to sell at 485 or better. Same thing with plus 40, right? So now we're up to 505. That's where our target is. You throw that order in there, have it working. These are only examples, guys. They're not specific hedge recommendations, but again, I'm just showing you what the data has looked like over the last 20 years. That gets us to hard truth number 2, right? Remember, we're still picking on the Iowa farmer. Here we go. Most Iowa farmers are speculators, not managers. Well, what do I mean by that? When we're business managers, we look at what? ROI, COGS, KPIs, all these sexy acronyms. That leads us on a simple strategy number 2, return on investment. So return on investment, for those of you who don't know like exactly what it means, just think about it this way. It's a simple metric businesses use to say how successful and profitable they've been over time, right? Think of it as like going to the gym. Do you have instant success over day 1, week 1, month 1? No, right? But when does it really start to get impactful? Do it year after year after year after year, day after day after day. Same thing as what I'm going to show you here in a minute. We make a 7% ROI 20 years in a row. You're looking at least a 4x return on the farm's value, okay? Kevin just went through this briefly as well in a different manner, but 15% return on investment over 20 years, you're 16xing roughly the value of your farm. And I know some of you guys are looking at me and you're like, man, that looks way too good to be true. Like, come on, really? Let me show you how close those numbers really are to real life. First, you got to calculate your cost of production, right? But in doing so, you're not waiting until you've actually harvested the grain. You got to get out in front of this, right? So this is stuff that you would already be doing now. So this is projected cost of production, okay? We don't want to wait till after we harvest. We want to know projected cost of production. So I'll show you what I did. Yours is going to be a little bit simpler. Get your per acre cost, include a salary for yourself, right? None of you guys are working for free. What I did in going back and doing this analysis is I took U of I, Iowa State, AgView, and USDA. I can promise you this is historically higher than your cost of production, okay? Next thing you're going to do, calculate your projected yield. It's really easy. You call your insurance agent and get a 5-year and 10-year APH. You should already know it, but if you don't, call your insurance person, right? What did I do? I used the USDA spring projections. This is historically lower than your average yield, right? So they just came out with it on the Outlook Forum. So, and you look at their yield curve over the last 20 years, much lower than your guys' average. So first off, what does that mean? That means that I have a higher cost of production and a lower yield, right? So those numbers that I'm going to be giving you in a minute are even more conservative than if we're using your actual cost of production and your true yield. So simple strategy number 2, from 2004 to 2023, the 7% ROI achieved 15 out of the last 20 years, 75% of the time. That is not too good to be true. That's pretty dang close, right? 15% ROI, 70% of the time, 14 out of the last 20 years. And that's with my numbers. That is not with yours. So, yeah. Well, and so, and talking about that for a minute, your guys' ROIs are all going to be different because your cost of production is all going to be different. Your yields are all going to be different, right? So this is custom to you and your farm. And we could see how often your farm numbers actually achieve those numbers, right? But I'm trying to give you an average right now based on the way I put it together. Simple strategy number 1, that's more like, there's no customization of that. It's on the February spring price, right? You guys get that. So this is going to be more tailored to the operation. Obviously, having a lower cost of production and a higher yield is better. So here's what it looks like on the chart. What I want you to take away from this is same thing as before. The blue line's the cost of production, the green line's the harvest price, okay? All the dots represent that 7% and 15% ROI got filled. If you had target orders in after you calculated your projected cost of production and your projected yield, that's how often that they got filled. Quite a bit. When didn't they? Right? 2015 to 2018. Ugh. You guys remember that, right? That's not a good time. Not a good time to be in business. Everybody's heads were in the sand, right? You felt like costs were just eating you and you weren't really getting anywhere. A lot of stagnant growth. But overall, for the last 20 years, still did pretty good. But the guys right here that took the biggest beating were the ones with the high cost of production. So here's what I want to point out with these red circles. These red circles are dangerous, okay? They're dangerous for a reason. To say it this way, it incentivizes bad behavior. This is when poor management decisions are made. This is where we get into more speculation. What happens during this time, right? Those Iowa farmers, what do? These are the good times. They're going out buying the red and green tractors, right? Buying more land, maybe some shiny new toys. What's the other thing that they do? They forget to forward market. They forget to manage risk because the good times are here to stay. And history's shown us that the good times only last 2 to 3 years, and then we come back, right? Because what do? We produce, right? You guys are damn good producers. What do? You produce a good product, produce a lot of it, especially when prices are high. So ultimately, it eventually brings prices down somewhere in the 2 to 3 year category, and, we get over leveraged up here, and this is when we get in trouble. So the red circles are there as like a cautionary tale. Just try to be more caution or use more caution when we get into those time frames. So if you wanted to implement strategy number 2 today, what does it look like? Well, we got to do what I said right at the beginning. We're here in 2024. We got to calculate our cost of production. For this example, I'm using 475. I got some bad news. Purdue just came out recently. They said high productivity soils at 490, averages at 525. It's not exciting. I'm sorry to be the messenger of bad news, but that's what they just came out with right down the road. So for this example, though, I'm going to use the 475 number. I'm going to keep it more positive and optimistic. You take 475, multiply it times 1.07, gets you to 508. Okay? That's how you'd achieve that 7% ROI. Work in order to sell a 508 or better. 15%, same thing, except we're going to multiply 4.75 times 1.15, gets us up to 546. And again, you're going to throw an order in there to sell these 24 corn at 546 or better. Again, these are only examples. I'm not giving you specific recommendations, but this is how the math works. I noticed some of you writing stuff down. I want to give you a minute. That brings us to hard truth number 3. Most humans have FOMO, fear of missing out. So do most Iowa farmers. They too are human, right? So when do emotions get highest? In the summer, right? Things are going nuts. You're reading all the news. The weather market's just going crazy, right? You're looking out in your backyard and you're like, holy cow, am I going to have a crop? Right? It's scary. I get it. So they're highest in the summer. We found that it's best over time to try to take advantage of that volatility. I'm going to show you again a couple different ways to do that. So first, simple strategy number 3, we're going to look at summer prices. 3A, sell summer price from May 1st to May 15th. It's beating the October 1st price. Again, that's my harvest price. We're using 15 out of the past 20 years, 75% of the time. Sell from June 1st to June 15th. It's worked 16 out of the last 20 years, 80% success rate. And the last one is July 1 to July 15th. It's beating the harvest price 14 out of the last 20 years, 70% success rate. Not bad, right? I mean, for just running a daily price from May 1st to May 15th and doing the same thing June and July. Don't get confused by the chart. Don't get intimidated by it. What I want you to take away is this is what all those dots look like from 2004 to 2023 above the harvest price. And you can see there's a lot of them, right? So if we were to implement simple strategy number 3 today, how would we do that? You're going to sell the daily close from May 1st to May 15th. I can't tell you if that's going to be 9 trading days, 11 trading days, but it's going to be somewhere in there, right? Depending on the weekends and how things play out. Or if you want to do it in a cash contract, you run a daily pricer. Are you guys all familiar with what a daily pricer is? When I use that word? I'm seeing some blank stares. Exactly. Yeah. You just said it correctly. It's the average over X amount of days, right? And the way that they're getting the average, they is in your merchandiser, right? You call your merchandiser, you say, hey, run a daily pricer from May 1st to May 15th. They're giving you the closing price each day over that time frame. And that's your average. So Keaton says, hey, I want to put 10,000 bushels in from May 1st to May 15th. They're going to break that. Let's assume there's 10 trading days there, okay? They're going to break that up 1,000 bushels at a time, and they're going to do that each day from May 1st to May 15th on those 10 trading days. And then that's your average, okay? And so that's what these dots represent, is the average, all right, of those time frames. And you can see the colors there. Maybe you can't because you're far away. Blue is May, orange is June, gray is July. So get back to it. If you wanted to do, again, 3B, you'd run that daily pricer, that average over the time frame, June 1st to June 15th, and July 1st to July 15th. All right. So are we good there? So I went over those 3 simple strategies, and they're like subsets. But let me show you when the magic really happens. Magic really happens when you put all of these strategies together, right? And compare that to the harvest price. You can see, again, I don't want you to get intimidated by the chart, but this is just an overlay of all those strategies against the harvest price for the last 20 years. You can see how many dots are above the harvest price, right? And, there's going to be time frames like 2012 where you feel like you're missing out. But this isn't something that we're looking at on 1 year, right? We're looking at this over the last 20 years. Similarly to what we just went through with the ROI, right? We're not looking at our return on investment for 1 year. That doesn't tell me how good I did. If I go to the gym for 1 year and I eat like crap for the next 19, that doesn't tell me how good I did, right? So we want to try to do this year after year after year. That's what we're going through. So what value did it really add, right? Because this gets intimidating, right? You're looking at it, you're like, ooh, that's a lot. What's the actual dollar amount that we're talking about here? So what I did was I took performance on 100,000 bushels from 2004 to 2023 using all those strategies, all right? And if we weren't filled on a strategy because it didn't trigger, I just used the harvest price because the grain's going to get sold at harvest anyway. Make sense? Right? So we don't get filled, I still just plug the harvest price in there. So it's a weighted composite, weighted average. 2012, right? Nobody felt good that year. It's a drought. But other than that, steady, consistent performance that has done pretty well. What's the dollar amount? $425,000 difference to you versus selling at harvest. It's pretty impactful, right? Again, no technicals, no analyzing, no computers. All of that stuff, all these strategies I just gave you, you can do right from your phone. Call your broker, call your merchandiser. You don't need anything else. So here's performance on 100,000 bushels. We just went against the harvest price. What I want to show you here is how did it do against my conservative high cost of production numbers against my low yields, right? So my conservative, when I was trying to get to the ROI calculation. Cumulative gain, 812,000. It's not bad. You guys, if you remember that ROI chart, and when the 7% and the 15% numbers did not get hit, was 2015 to 2018, right? Well, so when did the strategy not beat cost of production? Those same years. But it would have done better than waiting till harvest, significantly better, even in those same years. Again, no technicals, no computers, no overanalyzing. So you guys have heard me say simple a lot. Notice I still have not said easy. And here's the biggest reason why. Hard truth number 4. Most humans and Iowa farmers lack discipline. Ouch, I know. So how do we manage those? Well, first, you got to have a plan. You got to write it down. I found this interesting because it helped me write down my goals. Just simply writing down a goal, you're more likely to execute on it close to 50% of the time. You're 50% more likely to execute on it. Excuse me. 42% is the actual number. Find an accountability partner, right? Some of you are, with your fathers or, like Keaton and Kelly, but yeah, some of you are here with your in-laws, whoever it may be. Accountability partner can be anyone. It can be a spouse, it could be your son or daughter, it can be an in-law, You can hire it away, right? Like, obviously, we help people with this. I mean, call Shelby, call Michelle, but get somebody in your corner that's going to hold you accountable, right? It's just, it makes your life a lot easier. Personally, my accountability partner, Brian Levin, has been a long-time business partner, 17 years now, right? I mean, if I need somebody to hold my feet to the fire when times get tough, he's going to do it. The next one's my wife, and she has no problem telling me what I could be better at, right? And then last but not least, after you write down the plan, after you get an accountability partner, review the plan, track the results. What good is writing down a plan if we're not going to track the results, see how good we're doing? Or bad, right? If we didn't do something, didn't achieve something, why didn't we? How can we avoid it from happening again? So we're up to the basis point of the conversation now, and I'm going to pause because I want to see, I don't want to move on to basis if you guys have questions over those simple strategies.
George, one thing that I think would be helpful as you talk about basis is the conversation about, if you're doing this through a merchandiser, if you really only have one place that you can physically, logistically, all your grain, that's one thing, or if you're selling into a premium market. But if you're not, if you're selling, if you're sitting, like we are here, we've got premium, we have cargo unlimited, we have several different options. We got client, we've got several different options where we're selling. So what is mine, as a grower, what's my most effective way to utilize these strategies, either by having a margin account, or what if I don't want to put money in a margin account, and what options do I have?
So what I think the question is, what options do you have if you can deliver to more than one facility, so you're not locked into having to deliver to that facility? Is that the question?
Yeah, because what happens if I do my pricing just like you suggested, and then I get ready to set basis, and the merchandiser that I price with has a worse basis out of everybody. And I say, well, I've already done all this forward pricing. I think psychologically that's part of what happens to us as farmers. We think, well, if we don't price it with a merchandiser, then we've got the choice to go to another merchandiser.
Yep. Great question. There's two different ways, right? One is through a futures account, okay, futures hedge account. That scares some people, but it does keep your basis flexibility open, right? And if you got a good relationship with the bank, or if you can fund it yourself because you got the working capital, makes life really easy, but you want to be making sure that you're managing risk correctly, and you're in a situation where you want to make sure you're working with good people that know what the heck they're doing. And that's not a testament to say, hey, you have to come and work with AIO. If you already have a broker, that's fine. Just make sure he knows what he's doing to manage risk, okay? That's one, right, is the futures account. Keeps your basis flexibility open, right? And you have the hedges in your futures account. When you come to deliver and set basis, you just take off the hedges in the futures account, and then you make the cash sale. There's a more complicated, you could do EFRPs, but most people don't do that. Next is, there are partners, right? So like AIO Ag, for instance, we have partnership with the Andersons. And when people do these types of strategies or anything similar, they get flexible delivery, meaning they could deliver anywhere. They're not tied to an Anderson's facility. They don't have to go to who is closest to them, right? So it's called flex delivery. And that's just included in the service that we offer and the partnership that we have with the Andersons. So the benefit of that, Paul, in answering your question, is then you're not worried about where you had your contract, right? Because you still have the flexibility to shop around basis when you want to. Does that answer it?
Yeah.
All right.
I want to just clarify, when you're growing with AIO Flex, you said it comes flex your bushels into other buyers at no additional cost for flex. Now, if you were to just work with the Andersons directly or consulting, we sell your bushels in a HTA IFL, which is on the contract with the Andersons, but you wanted to deliver elsewhere, was it AIO flex bushels? Most buyers are going to charge a 2 to 3 cent direct ship fee to flex those bushels. What I would do, Paul, if you are selling some of your corn beans, whatever it is in the spring for off a lease or no futures contract, have that conversation with them there and say, will I be able to flex this into a buyer? And what's that fee going to be? And when you write this contract, and you put that agreement in notes, that's, you just told me today, yes, you have flexibility to flex this into another location, different buyer, and that fee is X, 2, 3 cents, whatever it is. And that way it's on your contract. And if you speak to another rep, or they have turnover, and you have another great buyer there coming in the fall, it's on your contract. We made this agreement, and you said that this was my option. And here we go. So that way you have just that little sliver of protection if something were to happen at your facility agreement.
What if,
First off, did everybody hear that okay? Right? All right, that's an excellent point, Shelby.
what if I'd like to implement one of these simple strategies, or I want to put, let's just say, I want to put some of my bushels in a managed program like AIO Flex or one of those other managed programs, and I want to take half my bushels and just do the simple strategies with that. Do you guys have a way, does AIO have a way that I can call and say, hey, I want to do simple strategy number 3. I want you to price, take my bushels and divide them into 4, whatever, different time periods and do the daily pricing. Will you guys do that? And if so, what's the cost in that? Because I think, the intimidating part is not the concept. The intimidating part is, oh nuts, I gotta remember to call my merchandiser 2 weeks ahead of time and say, hey, by the way, Mr. Merchandiser, which is different than the merchandiser was 2 months ago, can you please sell this for the next, sell me 500 bushels for the next 10 days or whatever
Yeah, so first off, yes, all these simple strategies we offer and we can do, right? I mean, this is what we do every day. You guys are just professionals when it comes to raising a crop. This is where we're professionals in marketing. So yeah. And what was the other part of your question?
Well, but you guys have a way to do it without a margin account. So if I called you up and said, hey, can you do this for me without a margin account? Can you do it with the Andersons? And instead of having a margin account, there would bushel fee to accomplish the same thing, which leaves my basis opportunity open.
Yes. In short, yes. You're right. Frankly, we help people even do this when it's not through the Andersons where we're servicing it, right? So if you needed help in trying to run it through another facility, we help people with that all the time. So yes, if you needed help doing it through futures account, our sister company, AIO Capital, does that. If you need help with the cash contract, you want to do it through Andersons because you like the flex ship is included in the fees, we can do that. But if you are just hell-bent on wanting to go to Cargill, right, or whoever it may be, we can help accommodate that and basically educate you on how to go through that process, right?
Where it gets more complex is if I have, a third of my corn bushels are going over here for a premium program, and a third of my corn bushels are going over here, and then I always leave a third to decide kind of where the best basis is. Then you have 3 simple strategies is actually 9 simple strategies, right? You got to do the same thing with each merchandiser versus it just makes it harder to implement than being able to call one person and say, hey, implement this for me for the next 12 months.
Call me.
Shelby, raise your hand.
Call me and I will have a conversation with you, find it and organize it and get you your deliveries and set basis and keep opportunities around you. So I would be your Walmart, a one-stop shop where you can talk to one person who talks to everybody. Michelle too, we do that consulting and we work with everybody we talk with, and the fees for that, we would just obviously you have our consulting fees, but as far as your enrollment fees for these programs, it's the buyer's fees that they would have. There's no additional cost there. So, yeah, we would do that. We talk to one person, we have about 20 different conversations if needed. Just come back to you.
Cool.
Yeah, so Shelby's our national grain marketing advisor. She used to work at CGB, used to work in Indigo. She's splendid, great, helps us service over 400 growers across 15 states. I mean, she is organized as ever, and we're just thrilled to have her on the team. Michelle Drake. Go ahead and raise your hand, Michelle. Michelle also is just as great as Shelby, right? We're happy to have both of them on the team, but she does all of the same stuff, right? And so they work together as a team, and they can basically facilitate exactly what Paul was saying. So, all right. We're ready to dive into 3 local facilities. So I don't have their names up here for a reason. I didn't know Paul was going to record this either, but if you guys had a guess, the C represents Cargill, okay? Just down the street. What do you think the best and worst month to set basis is over the last 15 years? What's that? October is what, the best or worst? Worst, yep. What's the best? We got one person saying May. Got an August out there. June or July. Dave's just giving me all 12 months. He's smart. Yeah. All right, Kelly, you're right. Worst month is October. By a long shot. 9 out of the last 15 years, worst month to set basis. So not only if we bring this back around to the first part of the conversation today, so not only are we selling grain that's unpriced because we're not using those 3 simple strategies, right? So we're selling at the harvest prices, and harvest prices tend to be the lowest over the last 20 years. We just went through that, right? But also the basis is the worst. So why are those Iowa farmers doing that? I don't know, right? Again, you guys are in Indiana. You guys are sharper. You're sharper tools in the toolbox, but I don't know why they're doing that. And then I think it was you, Josh, that said August. You would be right with the best. So, but the thing is, we can't move all of our grain in 1 month, right? Most of us can't, right? Or too big, too much grain. So what I did is said, what are the best 2 and the worst 2 months to move grain and set basis? So October popped up still as the worst, right? But look at the other months. February, November, on average, haven't been the best. 5 out of the last 15 years, February was the worst. But what stands out to you when you look at that chart? Best months, June, July, and August. Okay? You're going to see a similar theme here in a minute. So some of you, we all heard Dave's great presentation this morning on bin management. Anybody thinking about building a new bin right now? Show of hands. Got 1 at least, 2. And we have the bins that we have already. If you're thinking about building a new bin, this chart should scream at you. And here's why. This chart is called a stacked chart, okay? And what it does is it shows you a cumulative decision year after year after year after year. And this is the last 15 years of Cargill's basis over and over and over again, all right? When was the best time to deliver? I mean, this is consistent year after year after year. June, July, and August. July and August stand out. They stand out so much that they're $6 better. And then when you account for the $2 difference at harvest, they're close to $8 better. That's a compound decision over years, and we're talking serious money, right? So it gets us to pro tip number 1. I'm done with the hard truths. I was hard enough on those Iowa farmers a little bit earlier. A lot of people are going through this right now.
I just want to clarify something because that's a super powerful chart, which is that's basis only. That does not include the cost of the carrier. That does include the carrier.
This is just basis.
So you take and put that chart with carrier, and it's
Yeah, so say, for example, you sold a December HTA and you rolled it and you got 22 cents in December like you did this year in November, and then you got another 15, right, on the most recent roll from March to May, and then wherever you roll May to July, it's really adds up over time, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, this is just basis. It's not, I didn't count the futures in there at all. That's what I mean. I told you it should scream at you, Paul. I told you the chart should scream at you.
definitely. I can barely hear you over there.
And that's with a bad voice today. Yeah. All right, so back to the pro tip. So carry market, no basis only contracts, right? There are a lot of growers going through this right now. Okay, I'm not going to hammer it because, frankly, I feel bad for them. But do not do basis only contracts and carry markets. It's that simple, right? There are other ways to get long exposure than to do a basis only contract. You don't need to use that as the only tool. This can be so painful.
Jordan, can I add to that?
Sure.
Really, really have a great basis opportunity around you, and you think the market's going to run higher, it's a great time to attach one of those pricing tools, those daily pricing tools. Set yourself a floor with some upside, and really think the market's going higher. Small fee of those bushels price and put out the average price fee. And you probably hear your brain higher saying that, but everybody's probably heard, seen, and or felt basis on the contracts coming off the March board. Not a good position to be in with your futures risk wide open. So those daily pricing tools were mentioned. Good thing to attach to it if you'd like some upside on the market. If you're bullish.
If we have enough time, I'll spell this out in an example for you guys, okay, in a minute, if we have enough time. Inverse market, yes, basis only. That's the time to do it. You want to do a basis only contract, do it in the inverse. It's a little counterintuitive, right? But that's when you make that decision. All right, so we're going to move on. This is Premiant. Again, I don't have their names up there for a reason. These guys they're not happy about me sharing 15 years worth of basis data for free, right? They don't want you to know all this. Worst month, again, going into Premiant, October. Best month, August. What are the best two and worst two? This one jumped out a little bit because October was still there. But Jan and Feb both, right? Sometimes we think that JFM time frame looks pretty well to go and deliver. A lot of times we want to go and deliver there for cash flow reasons. But you can see 5 out of the last 15 years, one of the worst months to deliver on set basis. Again, though, June, July, and August shows up, and it's going to, again, scream at you on this next chart. So this is about it's not quite as bad going into Cargill because it wasn't $6, and it's less than $1 here at Harvest. And again, this is just basis, but really, really eye-opening. So if you're thinking about, and look, I get it. You can't store all of your grain. Nobody can. well, almost nobody can. Not many farmers. And right, you got cash flow concerns. You got to pay for stuff, right? You simply don't have all the storage capacity. I get it. But if you're gonna build storage, if you have storage, this is how you use it well over a 20-year time frame. And so even if you can take a percentage of your bushels and do this, it's going to really add up over time. You don't have to do it with all of it. Do it with 10 or 20% of your bushels over and over and over again for 20 years. Yeah, Josh.
Jordan, what's the ROI look like if you were to calculate the cost of money, storage losses, carrying that all out to, well, some of it out to August? When you look at that from an ROI standpoint, calculating all the costs, that looks impressive, but there's a lot of hidden cost in there that, what's that look like?
Well, Josh, this presentation today was called Keep It Simple Strategies, right? KISS, right? Now you're getting more complicated. I can run the numbers on that, but I didn't run the numbers on that for this, right? But yes, you're exactly right. Cost of money is especially important now. It wasn't for about 8 years, right? So 8 out of these, and this is 15 years of data, right? So 8 of these 15 years, cost of money was pretty cheap. So, all right, that gets us to pro tip number 2. Start negotiations 2 to 3 months before you need to deliver. A lot of us just wait, right? I can't tell you how many times Shelby and Michelle are getting calls, like literally someone is loading the truck, right? Hey, what can you do? Well, I can't do that much at this time, right? Give me a little bit more time. Shelby will scream from the rooftops. You give her 2 to 3 months, she's a bulldog. She'll go and fight for every penny she can give you, right? But you can't give her 2 to 3 hours. 2 to 3 months. And if you're doing it yourself, 2 to 3 months, right? Don't wait to the last minute. And then the other thing is we got to change the mindset. A lot of times we look at our buyers as adversaries. We need to turn that into the partner mindset. You'll see how quickly things change when you call them up first. They're not calling you for grain. You call them up and you say, hey, John, when can you use some grain? I don't see a lot of trucks going in right now. How are you guys doing? See how quickly the conversation changes. He's going to remember that. So try to change that mindset. And then we'll get through this quickly. This is ADM Frankfurt. I wanted to throw one in for the beans because last 2 we did was corn. October, again, worst month. August, best. The worst 2. So again, October shows up over and over again. January, that's the other big one. If you remember for all 3 charts, Cargill, Primient, ADM, January and October stood out on both, right? And then June, July, and August, your best months. And then here's that chart screaming at everybody. And this is even bigger because this is beans, but it's hard to do. How many people store beans to the summer, right? A lot of us want to deliver it as quickly as we can because it's a lot of money, right? But this is eye-opening. Talking about an $8 difference because $2 negative here at harvest, close to $8 compounded over time. Talking about a $10 difference. It's huge. So if you can do it, even on a small percentage of your production, you might want to consider it. All right, so again, over and over again throughout today's conversation, simple, 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 but I have not said easy. And we went through some of those hard truths as to why they're not easy. The other reason, if I'm just going to be real with you guys for a little while, why this isn't easy, you're not doing it every day. What are you doing? You're growing a crop, right? You're distracted by 5 other things, 8 other things, 10 other things, whatever it may be. So how do you make it closer to easy? Again, I'm not going to say it's easy because the grain marketing is not easy. It's not. I can't tell you where the market's going. better than anybody else. And anybody who acts like they can, they're lying, because nobody knows. But you can make it easier. How do you do that? You work with people who know what they're doing. This is what I do all day, right? This is what Shelby, Michelle, Brian, this is what we do all day. If I were to ask you, Kelly, how do you grow 200 bushel corn? And, what bin do you think I should look at? What planter? What depth should I plant? You'd say, oh, simple, right? Because your experience. You might even say, it's easy. Oh, that's easy, Jordan, right? How do you get there? It's because your experience. It's what you focus on. That's what you do every day, right? This is what I do every day. And it's not as fun as driving a tractor. It's not as fun as combining corn. I can tell you that much. But that's the desk we drive. That's what we do. So whether it's with us or somebody else, find somebody that you can trust to help you get through this stuff, all right? So today's contributions. We shared multiple simple strategies that have historically outperformed harvest prices, right? Second, discussed how to manage some hard truths when marketing grain. And third, shared some historical evidence regarding setting basis in your local market. And that's that. Is there any questions?
What percent do you guys recommend you pre-sale?
Well, it's going to depend on the farm. And so without trying to overlook that question, we're not afraid to forward market. And when I tell you that, I'll give you an idea. We're 70% sold, and we have been for 6 months against 2024 production, right? So even before we would implement strategies like this. So it depends on the year, depends on the grower, what they're comfortable with, but.
And how much 25 is priced?
Well, we have 25 priced. Again, depends on the grower. There's not many growers that want to go out and do that, but even in our programs, what was our last?
It's about in our program, it's about 50%. 50%.
The programs that we run and manage, they're 50% priced right now, hedged, I'll say.
And that's using different strategies to get there, but in general, that's around 50%.
I can't explain the program, but I already got the wave from Cami, and that is way more complicated. We're going from keep it simple, stupid to elevated math and Greeks, and there's not enough time for that.
But the moral of the story is with the program, when you sign a bushel up in the program, you guys manage the bushel through a lot of complicated strategies, but you're managing it. I'm not calling up.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. What's it? No remanaging. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Any other quick questions before Cami comes and kicks me off? All right.